The 2026 midterm primary season is officially underway. Voters are heading to the polls for Election Day in 3 historically red states. Ballots are being cast in Texas, Arkansas, and North Carolina. New CBS News polling shows 45% of voters want to see Democrats take control of Congress next year, while 40% want to see Republicans remain in charge. Texas's hotly contested Senate race is now the most expensive Senate primary on record, according to advertising tracking company Ad Impact. On the Republican ballot, incumbent Senator John Cornyn is battling to keep his seat against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt. On the Democratic side, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is facing off against State Representative James Tallarico for a chance to flip the seat. There's also interest in the state's race for Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture. Republican candidate Nate Sheets is looking to challenge the 3-term incumbent Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, who we spoke to yesterday. The winner of tonight's Republican primary will face Democratic candidate Clayton Tucker in the November midterm. We are now joined by North Texas beekeeper Nate Sheets. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Lindsay, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So yesterday, Sid Miller told me that this agency is a $7 billion agency, a budget bigger than that of 37 governors. How are you prepared for the job?
You know, Lindsay, I spent my career starting with one beehive, turning into the largest honey company in America called Nature Nates. So what farming actually needs today is someone who understands how to drive scale and also who knows how to drive revenue. Farmers and ranchers are having a revenue problem, not just in Texas, but really all throughout America. And so we need a commissioner that's at the helm of the Texas Department of Agriculture that's really focused on the long-term success of farmers and ranchers here in Texas.
What do you blame the revenue issue on?
You know, it's really about the optionality. You know, there's been massive consolidation in agriculture over the past 10 and 15 years. And so I was just with a rice farmer down in Beaumont, and he's a 5th-generation farmer, and he was sharing with me that not only was he concerned because he had children that did not want to follow in his footsteps, but then he shared with me that he had just sold his rice crop for 40% less than it actually cost him to make it. We talked about sustainability in agriculture regularly, but I'll tell you what's not sustainable in agriculture is the current revenue model, because their revenues come down. In 1980, a farmer made 40 cents of every $1 food. That was their revenue. Today, it's 15 cents. But all the while, all their expenses have gone up almost 300%.
Well, what is to blame for that? Are tariffs a part of it?
No, it's really consolidation. There used to be hundreds of seed companies in the United States, and now there's 2 or 3. There used to be hundreds of buying companies. Now there's 2 or 3. And we are far more reliant upon adversarial nations that have gotten involved in the way that we feed ourselves in America. And so we used to have 700 meat processing plants across Texas, and now we have 4 meat processing companies that control 85% of the meat market in America, with 2 of them being owned by Brazilian companies.
Okay. I have to be quick with you. You were endorsed by Governor Abbott, your opponent backed by President Trump. How will that factor in, you think?
You know, we've been not just endorsed by Governor Abbott, but also the Texas Farm Bureau, the Southwest Texas Cattle Raisers Association, Cattle Feeders Association, and all the agricultural groups have endorsed us. And because they know that the current trajectory that we are in agriculture in Texas is not tenable. And so we need new leadership that has new vision, that's going to come in and not have a Texas Department of Agriculture that's plagued with ethical issues and criminality.
Nate Sheets, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Let's bring in the Democratic candidate for Texas Agriculture Commissioner Clayton Tucker. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you all so much for having us. We are joining y'all from the RGV on a very windy day at a college campus.
All right, so you just heard there from Republican candidate Sheets. Do you agree with his sentiment on the biggest issues facing farmers in rural communities in Texas?
Look, one of the biggest issues is definitely monopolies. These monopolies have rigged the system. They are price gouging farmers. They are price gouging consumers. But another coming up issue is these data centers that are going to take all the water away from Texas farmers and jack up power prices. So that's what this campaign is fundamentally about, busting these monopolies to make food and farming affordable and protecting our water from AI data centers.
Yesterday, I asked Sid Miller about the impacts of tariffs on farmers. Here's what he said.
Tariffs are a farmer's best friend. Under the first administration, when the dust settled, we were making more money than we'd ever made before. It was because of the tariffs.
You also heard Nate Sheets' answer when I asked him about tariffs. What do you think?
Tariffs can only, when we already have our agriculture here, send our factories away, and also send a lot of our agriculture. We reshore agriculture first, and then we can start really protecting what we already have. Tariffs can be a useful tool, but the way they're being done is more haphazard than anything.
We have 1 minute left. Is the community, you think, getting enough support from the federal government?
Well, a very small percentage of them are. The big corporate farms, the billionaire farmers, those really corporate monopolies, they are getting all the support. When the farm bill is passed, when any of these actions are passed, it's usually the very top 2% that get all of them. Everyone else gets pennies. So as Texas Agriculture Commissioner, we're going to make sure that our system is fair, that we support local farms, and really build that local food system here in Texas.
Clayton Tucker, thank you for your time.
Thank you.